My name is Raquel Varela. I'm a labor historian, university teacher, and researcher of history and labor conditions.
And we're here at this International Dockworkers Council, which was formed out of a struggle of Liverpool, the Charleston Five. There are many struggles, and it seems with technology now that the future of the dockworkers worldwide is in question as a result of the attacks that they face. Where is this struggle going with dockworkers around the world with technology and privatization of ports?
Well, the IDC has took the decision that they will block any kind of automation in the ports. They didn't allow it. And I must be totally honest, at the beginning I was not sure about this option, but I think today is the correct option, because in fact there is no other option, because social assistance, if you don't have a job, you are living from what? From social assistance, from state charity. So if technology is not in the hands of workers and the labor, what would be, of course, ideal is that if we introduce technology, we reduce the working time hours without reducing salary.
Shorter work week.
Shorter work week. This is obvious. This is the minimum of civilization in 21st century. But the companies and the states are not willing to do this. What they are doing is substitute workers by robots without leaving any chance of workers to have a way of living. So they decided to question, and I think politically it's a correct answer at this moment.
The question
should be, of course, in my opinion, combined with the question of why the ports are not public, why don't we have a shortened week hours, why don't we have technology in the service of the good of mankind.
Wouldn't that require a socialist revolution?
Yeah.
To have technologies at service of the people instead of the capitalists who are making money from the use of technology, information technology, and these new technologies are being used to further exploit the working class with these platforms.
In fact, historically, this is absolutely obvious. We don't see any concrete reforms toward the benefits of labor without social revolutions. See, for example, the question of reducing working time hours. The only time when working time hours were reduced without intensification of labor was after the Russian Revolution in the May of '68. And nowadays we have an increase of
the computerization and these platforms have now meant that workers are 24 hours working.
They are 24
and the email,
hours working, and the real salaries are not raising, so people are getting two jobs, they're getting an extra shift at night, etc., etc.
Pauperization of the working class.
People don't have time to free life, to go to the theater, to the cinema, to enjoy the family, to make love, to go to a nice walking. They are compulsively appendix of the machine. This is intolerable from the social, cultural, and mankind point of view.
Well, the dock workers have been a leading force historically of building internationalism, linking up with dock workers around the world. The IDC now says it wants to expand internationalism, and one of the vice presidents said they want to support general strikes globally. And in the United States even, the head of the airline flight attendants, Sarah Nelson, said there need to be a general strike against the shutdown, against the attacks on workers. Do you see a situation in which the world working class is forced on a global level to take this kind of action?
I think we are much more closer of this than we were in the past. So clearly the just-in-time system and the chain production of the globalization has put it in the center of the debate, the idea of international struggles being coordinated in a world scale. And on the second hand, I think as stronger as dockers can be, corporative struggles can just win for short periods. They will have to, in my opinion, but this is just my personal opinion, I think the doctors have to appear to the public with a universal idea for the society, with a general idea for the society. They have to, don't be afraid of becoming a kind of a vanguard in a good sense. The people that fight, the people that are strong, and they show another way. So if they fight against automation, but they can bring, for example, the automobile industry workers with them, then they will be much successful in their fight against automation.
And of course the climate and drilling for oil and the reaction, Trump and the capitalists who say we want to pump more oil. At the same time, the California is burning up. There are fires all over. It seems that we're going into a situation in which there's going to have to be a massive confrontation because of the drive for capital, to make capital from utilities and the energy industry, and yet the needs of people to survive in the future.
Well,
right now in California, the fires are burning up, the drought, the whole global economy is being radically impacted, yet the capitalists are saying we are going to defend the energy industry, we're going to defend the utilities, we want to sell more electricity. I mean, the needs of capitalism are requiring further destruction and further insanity. I mean, nuclear plants, they're going to have the Olympics, for example, in Fukushima, the Abe government, where there's radioactive material still being having the water.
I think there is no green capitalism. Green is to do public transports. Green is to make people live near their jobs. Green is to reduce the working hours. That's green. So what we have, which is a huge reconversion, for example, of the automobile industry of Germany to so-called green energy, which is not green because lithium batteries are not green at all. The miners are not green. The batteries are not renewable, etc., etc. So I do believe that capitalism is absolutely incompatible with ecological standards.
And this situation of this incompatibility and the need to overthrow the system, that it's a system problem. You can't solve these problems without a transformation of the system. Do you think that
above all, I think nowadays unions, it's very curious because unions do not ask for socialism or to anti-capitalist policies because they think they will lose members. But I think it's actually the opposite. What we saw with Bernie Sanders and Jeremy Corbyn is that as much offensive you are, as much universal you are, as much questioning the system you are, you get more support. And we cannot leave the idea of questioning the system to the extreme right. The extreme right cannot be the only organization that is questioning the system, because the extreme right is questioning the system, but with no solution, because they are part of the problem. So we need a left to question the system with an idea of equality, solidarity, labor rights, public services.
And against war, imperialist wars or wars. I mean, and in the United States now, the debate between socialism and capitalism is on the agenda. Whatever you think of Bernie Sanders, that debate, and that is an expression of the deep crisis that capitalism is in.
No doubt, but at least we saw this in the United States and in England. We don't see this in the other countries, and we need this. We need urgently a policy that starts to questioning the roots of the system. Then we can decide. I'm not saying that Bernie Sanders is a revolutionary man or Jeremy Corbyn, but I'm saying that at least we have to start questioning why we are permanently, for example, building social service and they become semi-privatized, or they become they start working in a profit
public-private partnerships
in a profitable agenda, etc., etc. We cannot live in this situation. It's absolutely impossible. It's obscene.
Now China is becoming the reigning capitalist power. It's buying ports all over the world.
It's kind of paradise of capitalists, because it's a Stalinist dictatorship with a capitalist economy. It's the worst of the two systems in the 20th century.
And yet, this what is created is an internecine warfare now between the capitalist class.
Yeah.
Capitalist class are fighting each other for market share, trade war.
Yeah.
It seems that the direction is towards world war. Is that a real threat? And what is the role of the unions and the working class in a situation in which the capitalist countries really are forced into a war situation, more trade war and military war?
I think it's not an impossible situation. And the unions will have to play anti-nationalist policy against this. It's not impossible that the capitalism will lead us, as they have done in the First and the Second World War, to a Third World War. This is the most serious thing we have, and unions have to be conscious they are part of the solution. They cannot be part of the problem. If they want to be part of the solution, they have to have a role in the countries, not just a role concerning their economic sector. They have to take care of the country. Capitalists love to say to the union, you do this economic struggle, you negotiate the collective agreement, we go to the court. No, unions have to ask, what kind of society are we living in? They have to have a project for the society.
Well, the revolution in Portugal, the loss of the colonies, radicalized the situation here politically. And Portugal made some reforms that haven't happened in other countries. Do you see the decline of U.S. capitalism now leading to that same kind of political development?
I see this, and I see this in a much more radical way, with a bigger effect than the Portuguese Revolution, because we're speaking of US. So what I want to say is that I deeply believe in the organized working class in America, both manual and intellectual. They have to face some dangers. The dangers is unions that married with companies, or unions that become companies.
Corporate unionism.
Corporate unionism. They have to face another danger in the left, which is a big danger, which is identity policy and all the kinds of fragmentation, gender, race issues, etc. I think we need universal policies, radical and universal policies that avoid these dangers. But if we do, we have one of the powerful working class in the world in US. I have no doubt of this. As well, I don't doubt it exists in Germany.
So you are optimistic about the future?
I think the future can be very dark, but if it is sunny, it will come from the working class organized and with a special role in the core countries.